Hello and welcome to Executive Talk. My name is Maurice Washington. I want to welcome everybody here in our studio audience and also those that are watching live and that will watch it later. Today we're starting up a new series. We just finished a series called the Annual Revenue, so I invite everybody to check that out. But today we're going to talk about the sales conversation. That's what today's topic is. So the sales conversation, I think is very important for us as business owners to really understand a few things. Obviously, we can have a business entity, which is natural. Okay. The second portion of that is sales. Without sales, you don't have a business. So that's one key element that everybody knows and everybody's for sure of. But why this particular topic? I think this particular topic, the importance of it is, it's interesting that, as business owners, as sales professionals, we're trained on a lot of different levels to work with clients. Okay. We're trained on our sales approach, different techniques to get over objections. It's just kind of a part of our navigation as far as the sales professional world. But what about dealing with the actual understanding of what the client is going through? I think that's very important. Very rarely do we take the minute to say, what is my client really feeling right now in front of me? There's a lot of interesting things going on with the client, and that's what we're going to talk about today, which is the client's perspective. So when we look at this particular topic as a client's perspective, we always have to look at our SWOT, which is your strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So in this particular topic, we're going to talk about the WT, which is the weakness and threats. And what is the weakness and threats within the sales conversation with your clients? What are they actually going through? So that's actually what we're going to deal with today. So let's go ahead and get into it. The way that I like to frame this is called the evolution of trust. So the evolution of trust, let's talk about the actual evolution and how business has taken place over the years. So the dynamics of business has been the handshake. Okay, I wasn't around this era, but at this time, it was a handshake. There was a small neighborhood. Everybody knew the neighborhood baker. They knew the banker. They knew the locksmith. They knew everybody there. So it was as good as a handshake. Everything went well. Business was transacted. There was never any question about, is this person going to do what they need to do? There was never that question because the town was probably so small, you didn't want to do anything wrong in the first place. But nonetheless, everybody knew everybody. And so there was a level of trust that it started at that time frame. So then the evolution as the people, expand and increased, we got to being creative, Yellow Pages. Okay, everybody remembers the big book that you can, place your plants on, you can stand on it, you can do whatever, and it was indestructible. Everybody remembers that book. But within that book, there was a level of marketing that happened within that. Okay, now you had the power. At that point, there was a kind of a power shift. You had the power to choose more than what was just available to you at that particular time. So now the client and the customer had more control as to the decisions and people that they wanted to work with. So then let's think about the next evolution. So I think everybody remembers the time frame from the Yellow Pages to the internet. The dial-up, the little the horrible noise getting to the internet. That was that evolution between that time. Now, both of them existed all at the same time. Okay, we have the Yellow Pages at one point, and then we also have the internet. This internet wasn't so much of a trustworthy source because you know how change is for everybody. It takes a little bit for everybody to get used to this new evolution of how to find your business and your resource. So within that transition, the internet started to be, okay, this internet thing actually works out. I can find who I need to find and work with quicker. So now the Yellow Pages Yellow Pages went to yellowpages.com. You don't see those big books anymore. So within the evolution of the internet, think about this. Now that's the trusted resource. At that particular time when the internet was the sole source to actually find your business professional, that's where everything went to. But then what happened to people at that time? During this time, they were like, wow, I can find everybody here, but I don't know who these people are. They're just a bunch of websites and yeah, it looks good and it sounds good and call me and contact me and do all this, but I don't know these people. So then they say, you know what? Let's go ahead and do the internet plus reviews. Okay, so the next evolution from there is that we still have the internet, you still have the resource. Now it went to review sites. So now everything is connected. Now this internet actually has a face because now they have review sites to help me decipher who I'm choosing before I go forward. So then YouTube University, everybody knows YouTube is still part of the internet, but the reason why I call it YouTube University is because you can find everything on YouTube. But we're going to come back to this slide in a minute. I want to take you guys to a different point in evolution. Within this evolution of how the evolution of trust, let's think about media for a minute. I'm sure everybody has sat down at 6 o'clock to a nice dinner. You turn on the news and you hear the first story. Hey, on today's news, we have a landscaper who stole nine different clients' checks during the hailstorm season. Has anybody ever seen those? Yes. Okay. What did that do to you as a consumer? It freaked you out. Even though that was not you, on some level, you took that in on, ooh, I'm glad that didn't happen to me. I don't want that to happen to me. And even on the news, the next step from there goes to, well, so you don't, as a preventable maintenance, what you need to do is you need to look for 3 or 4 different contractors before choosing this one. Here's your steps. Here's your to-do list before you choose the next person so you don't get hurt. So trust, even in that moment, there was a moment of trust that got affected. And even though we're business owners, we're still consumers all at the same time. So we had our specific thought. So how about false advertising? Okay, I'm going to pull up a random example, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Think about the hamburger that you see on a commercial. It's big. It's the best looking hamburger that you've ever seen. And at that particular time, obviously, you wanted a hamburger. So let's say you go to that restaurant, you see that hamburger, and it's small. Is there a level of, where's that big hamburger? Okay, now that was a small example, but think about a lot of the advertisements that you see on TV where they say, hey, 20% off. Well, do you need to spend $1,000 in order to get that 20% off? What's happening? So again, another trust area. What about the magician salesperson? Okay. Now you see me, now you don't. What does that mean? So think about it from this perspective. This particular salesperson has sat down in front of you as a client or sat down in front of their client and said, hey, you know what? I love what I do. I love the company I work for. I love this company. I'm going to be here forever. So yeah, call me whenever you need to. Call me during the day, call me in the evening, call me on the weekend, call me whenever, because I'll be here. So that client, let's say inevitably that client needs something maybe 1.5 years down the road. Then that client calls that salesperson and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, he said he'll be here. So he calls that client, or calls the salesperson back. And guess what he says? You hear a few different things. The person you have dialed is no longer in service. Okay, that's one. Or you hear, hello? Oh, hey, Jimmy, how you doing? You know what? I don't even work for that company anymore. I actually work for the competition. Remember I told you that competition to not go with them? I actually work for them. We can actually sit down and have an appointment and talk further about it. Okay? Think about that client's interaction at that moment in time. They brought for 2 reasons. They brought for a level of trust in the product. They needed the product, but there was loyalty there. You sold them on the loyalty of that you're going to be there for them at their time of need. And so when that particular moment happens, that loyalty says, man, now what do I do? Now I'm stuck by myself. Okay? So what about things not working as expected? Maybe the salesperson didn't manage the expectations correctly. What happened in that interaction that said, oh man, every time I purchase this is what happens. And you know how that goes. The client will, and you as a consumer will have your own trail of thought with that. So what about sales professionals creating false needs? We always know those sales professionals that have, the 3-tier package. This package, this package, this package. And then that sales professional comes in, sells them the biggest package, and then lo and behold, a year later, you're saying, all I use is this particular component. Why did I spend all this money? That particular conversation, if you ever hear a client actually go through that, distrust has already entered their body and their mind. Because next sale they come in contact with, they're going to say, I want the lowest package. And if I need to upgrade, I'll upgrade next time, but I just want the lowest thing. Because they don't want to go through that again. So let's think about how this particular slide correlates with that. So all this level of distrust is happening within this transition because it's all in the same time frame. Nothing has changed. So it went from a handshake of trust. That was the most area where we had relationship. It was face-to-face. There was no texting, no email, there was nothing else in the middle of that. It was just face-to-face, eye-to-eye, we'll get it done. Whereas the Yellow Pages, although it was a good service and it worked out, the transition said, you know what, no longer do we need kind of a face-to-face interaction. Since we're expanding as people, we need an easier way for everybody to be contacted as far as business professionals. So we're going to go ahead and bring the Yellow Pages into play. But think about it from this perspective. What was the trusted ad that you looked at? Wasn't always the bigger ad. It wasn't always the guy who had the little small tiny ad in the back end corner. Nobody went to him unless that person could not get out to him in the right amount of time. But right here, the bigger ad, the first person got the call because there was a level of trust that this company is going to be around, they're going to do it, and I can trust them. So what about the internet? Although it was easier to find, it was easier to find your client, think about what happened in that because we needed review sites. No longer did the client trust who they were looking up at that moment in time. They were always in question, so they needed review sites because they're like, hey, I don't know, I need to make sure this company is legit. So this is all the trust that's happening within this transition. There's a lot of layers of trust that are happening in here. And then when you look at this, when I say YouTube University, what does it claim? There's a lot of do-it-yourself videos on YouTube, aren't there? The scariest thing for sales professionals to actually see, because here's the transition. Handshake, Yellow Pages, Internet plus review sites to do it yourself. If clients are getting to the point where they start wanting to do it themselves, that's a dangerous spot for us as business owners and sales professionals. And you think about it, the most troubling thing as a business owner, just as people, is just to do taxes. So think about, it was easier just to go to an accountant and say, hey, can you do my taxes and get it all figured out? But now they have TurboTax and other things to do it yourself. That's how dangerous it is, but that's how evolution has changed for us. So we need to be aware of that. So my statement to that is your client wants the control back possibly. If it goes from a do-it-yourself, if it goes from a trust factor to, if those things are combined, that's a storm of, I want the control back. And we as business professionals should probably really consider that. What that could be saying is that today's client does not want to need you. If they can figure out any way, I mean, let's think about it. Have you ever had like a small plumbing issue? At some point in time, you said, okay, you got your iPhone with you, and you're trying to go to youtube.com to go find how can I get this fixed. We as sales professionals try to do it ourselves. They don't want to need you, but that's kind of the last resort. Now, the client will actually typically bid 2 or 3 times more than what they actually need to. That is a key to trust not being there. They will just okay, let me go ahead and get a bid here. Let me get another bid here. Let me just make sure. That's what the client is really going through, and that's a lot of the decisions that they're making. Now, clients spend months researching your product before they even came out. Now, why is that? There's a level of security that happens. Because they don't know, so for example, in a flooring situation, now, of course they want to know what type of flooring matches their house or whatever the case may be. But consider this. They want to make sure that if they're going to spend $10,000, $13,000 on their new floor, that they have the conversation, that they know what you're saying before you even come out there. They want to say for themselves, yes, I know exactly what's about to happen. And if you as a sales professional, because you see this sometimes in your sales conversations, I'm sure you guys see the folded arms. So with that folded arms, maybe that client is looking at you like, or that customer is looking at you, you know, I know the answer to this. I want to make sure you know the answer to this. And the worst thing about this research is that they're researching the wrong thing and not understanding that may not be pertinent to their situation. Now you got conflicting interests, and you have to really help them understand that this is the point of what this is. Decisions based off of reviews. Okay? What does that mean? They're trying to dodge the pain. When making those decisions off of reviews, they just want to see what has happened before. That's kind of the key to the review sites and why they even exist in the first place. They want to know what's behind the corner. So let's think about what dodging the pain actually means. I'm sure all sales professionals have heard this statement. Well, I don't know. You know, I'm not really for sure. I'll kind of think about it. Well, actually, I'll call you back. I'll call you back, and we'll talk about it further. Hey, that sounds great. I'm definitely going with you for sure, but just not right now. We'll talk about it later. Has anybody heard that? Absolutely. What did we miss in that conversation? What is happening to that client prior to? How long have you been with your company? Now, that sounds just the regular curious, hey, I'm just curious about, but what are some of the words behind how long have you been with the company? What are they looking for? Again, if we're coming from a dodging the pain mindset, how long, what's your vested interest? If you're in this company for 6 months, do I need to talk to you? Are you just coming, when you're sitting down presenting to me your product, are you telling me just based off of a spiel that you went to 2 months of training for and that you had to memorize? Is that what you're speaking to me? Are you speaking to me from that particular vein? Who is your manager? That's where that next question comes from. Who is your manager? Because typically the manager has been there for 9, 10 plus years. So what they're looking for is backup on credibility. I want to back you up. So if you leave, because you've only been here for 6 months, you're not really committed to the job quite yet. That's what it means in their world. I need to know who the next person in line. Again, dodging the pain. What exactly does that mean? Okay, client has you sized up based off their own research and also reviews. Again, everybody's seen that client with the folded arms, and you're sitting down trying to explain to them a particular process in your business. Hey, this is how it works. And they interrupt you. Oh, no, yeah. It's like this, right? Is that what you're talking about? Because, yeah, I know that one. That's that client who already wants to say, I know what's happening. I'm not a stupid client. I do not know what I'm talking about. This is what it looks like. So they kind of want to compare apples to apples, information to information. That's more what's going on versus just them interrupting you. They want to be involved in the situation. They want to be known as a smart consumer. They want to feel comfortable about what they're doing in the conversation that they're having with you. So, what do they want to protect most? What's happening to this client? What are they really trying to protect? What about their own sanity? Now, that sounds like a funny statement, but let's think about this. It's easier for me to say, you know what? That was a stupid decision. I can't believe you made that decision. Why? Yeah, I'm glad I'm not you, because I would never do that. I mean, wow, right? You guys have seen that. You guys, it's easier to do this. But when you as a consumer, when you as a person have to say, look in the mirror, man, I can't believe I made another decision like this. What am I thinking? When am I ever going to learn? That is hard to actually consume. Nobody wants to keep on going through that over and over again. So that's what I mean by their own sanity. Nobody wants to be the next 9 news story. Okay, that really, everybody's trying to, again, dodge the bullet. Their money. Everything costs. Everything costs. So with time and money included. So the time that you vested into doing that particular or working for that or waiting for that product or whatever that situation is, there's a lot of time there. And also money. Yes, the economy's gotten a lot better, But one thing that happened in 2008 is everybody realized that money does not grow on trees. Now we're actually realizing, wow, we have to work for it, and we want to make sure each dollar is going in the right direction. And especially as business owners, but think about it from a client perspective. What are they going through? Everybody is typically scared. Everybody is typically scared. If we're coming from a place of trust and we're trying to figure out what's going on, the reason why the review sites, people are doing this. What's around the corner? What's next? What's going to happen to me? Am I going to be able to tell my friends that I made a good decision? Am I going to be able to kind of boast and brag about the fact that I had this new thing? Or am I going to have to say, well, yeah, I tried it, but oh my gosh, I can't believe. You don't want to have that story. You want to feel like you know you're a smart, intelligent consumer. So that's part of what your consumers are going through. So I want to invite everybody to check out our social media. We have our Instagram over there at Executive Talk, Facebook under Executive Talk, Twitter under Exec Talk, and please check us out on our YouTube channel and also follow us up on LinkedIn. You know, what we want to do is we really want to generate conversations around this, because I think, you know, truth be told, we have a lot of different varying insights regarding our own experiences as business owners and also consumers as to what we experienced. And it's very important for us to really get this out, because our job as business owners is to really help these consumers, to take our talents and help the consumers. And if we can position them and actually know what they're going through first and foremost, I think that will help bridge the gap and create that relationship from going too far into do it yourself. If we can get back to the handshake, if we can get back to that place of, hey, we're going to get business done, that's really the goal of business ownership. So in our next conversation, what we're going to discuss is we're going to talk about it from a salesperson perspective. What are we going through when we actually walk through the door? Because we go through a lot of varying emotions going through the door as well, don't we? So I think it's important for us to really dive into that and really think that through. And then the third conversation that we're going to have is we're going to talk about how can we bridge that gap between business owners and also client relationships to make that an easier transaction. So I want to thank everybody for joining us here at Executive Talk. We'll see you next time, but I have to get back to work.